Now, Donald Trump has fired a major warning shot in his ongoing trade war.
Well, the US president has now unveiled higher tariffs for Japan, South Korea and a dozen other countries in a push for new trade deals.
However, he also extended the deadline for the steeper levies to kick in until August. As you know, earlier the date was the 9th of July. The White House has said that several deals were in the pipeline, but only 2 have been finalized so far, with Britain and Vietnam. He also signed an executive order dealing the previous July 9 deadline, which I mentioned earlier, to reach these new tariff deals, now extended until the 1st of August.
But he later said that he was open to extensions if countries made proposals. Listen to this.
I would say firm. No, I would say firm, but not 100% firm. If they call up and they say, would like to do something a different way, we're going to be open to that. But essentially, that's the way it is right now, yeah.
Now, Trump announced the latest tariffs in near-identical letters, first sent by Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba and South Korean President Lee Jae-myung. He said trade relations with both the countries are far from reciprocal, and the time is running out to cut better deals.
I have the signed letters that went out to both South Korea and Japan today, and there will be approximately 12 other countries that will receive notifications and letters directly from the President of the United States. And weeks ago, I stood at this podium and I told all of you that the President was going to create tailor-made trade plans for each and every country on this planet, and that's what this administration continues to be focused on.
Trump issued similar letters to countries including Indonesia, Bangladesh, Thailand, South Africa and Malaysia, saying he would slap duties on their products ranging from 25% to 40%.
Now, according to letters posted to Trump's Truth Social platform, products from Indonesia will face a 32% tariff, while the level for Bangladesh is 35% and Thailand 36%. Most countries receiving letters so far at duties similar or unchanged from threatened rates in April, although some like Laos and Cambodia see notably lower levels.
Reacting to new tariffs, Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba said Sunday that he won't easily compromise in trade talks with Washington. Trump has also threatened another 10% tariff on countries aligning themselves with the emerging BRICS nations, accusing them of anti-American policies after they slammed his duties at a summit recently.
Brazil, who hosted the BRICS summit, hit back saying it was irresponsible for Trump to threaten countries with tariffs on social media. President Lula da Silva said that the world does not need an emperor, adding that other nations have the right to reciprocate.
So we don't want an emperor. Our countries are sovereign. If Trump issues tariffs, other countries have the right to do the same. There is the reciprocity law. I think it's not responsible for a president from a country like the US to threaten the world with tariffs on social media. Honestly, there are other forums for the president of a country the size of the United States to talk to other countries.
Major US stock indices fell from records on Monday on Trump's fresh threats. The Nasdaq tumbled 0.9% and the S&P 500 lost 0.8%.
All right, for more on this, we're now being joined live by Joanna LeBlanc. She is a national security law analyst and U.S. foreign relations expert. Thank you so much for joining us on World DNA.
Thank you so much for having me.
Now, let's just get right into it. Of course, first we saw the tariffs pause. Now we're seeing an extension. Do you think this extension to a certain degree might reflect some sort of a desperation to get the deals that the United States requires?
Well, I think, so first and foremost, I think it's important to note that President Trump's sweeping new tariffs mark one of the most aggressive and one of the most consequential shifts in U.S. trade policy in decades. And there is a lot at stake, right? Which some of it aims to protect the American people, the American consumers, the American industries. But at the same time, it risks ripple effects across global markets and certainly Main Street, Wall Street alike. But I think in terms of the extension that has been provided. I think it's an opportunity for countries to come to the table and to negotiate with Mr. Trump. And many of these tariffs that have been imposed as a way to renegotiate trade terms with nations around the world.
Johanna, April is when the tariffs were announced, May, June, and now July also. Now we're waiting till August. Till now, it's only UK and Vietnam which have come around. And UK, as one understands, is a very close partner of the US already. So it's essentially just Vietnam. Do you feel there's a message there that nations are sending to the US which it should acknowledge now, or do you feel it otherwise?
No, I think that's very possible. We live in a multipolar world, right? It's not the world is not the way it was, maybe 60 or 80 years ago. More and more countries are interconnected, and more countries are working together in trade in terms of trade and investments. So I think that the United States is feeling that, and I think part of the strategy that Mr. Trump had, perhaps some aspect of it is backfiring, and that's part of the reason why the dates are expanding, because countries have other partners. They have partners like China. They have other partners around the world to work with.
Right, absolutely. And I believe, just to add to Shivan's point, and just for further clarity on this, of course, as he mentioned, these came in back in April. We saw a pause, now we're seeing an extension. Do you think it's just logistical challenges and delays that we're seeing right now, or are we going to see more deals in the future? Because one may argue that if they haven't happened till now, are they really likely to come?
Yeah, if they haven't happened in 3 months, we're left with 3 weeks till August now. So what do you feel?
I think we may see some deals. Like, for example, as you all know, President Trump is hosting 5 African heads of state here in Washington this week. So I believe there will be some deals that come out of that. But many of these countries and many of these continents have their own multilateral trade agreements that they also cannot undermine. Like, for example, when you look at the African continent, they have the African Continental Free Trade Area. So many of these countries cannot provide the United States zero tariffs and not provide zero tariffs for countries across the African continent. So it makes things a little bit more complicated in terms of reaching an actual trade agreement with the United States, especially when it comes to tariffs.
Well, we're left with 3 weeks till that deadline, and then there's also a hint which has been left by the US president that if there is a proposal, he can think of a further extension. So we'll need to really wait and watch when these deals really come into place. That was Johanna LeBlanc joining us from Washington, D.C. Thanks so much, Johanna.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right.